I join Americans in asking the same question. How can gun violence be reduced in the country? Or how can gun-related deaths be prevented in the country? We all know that the United States is one of the countries in the world, if not one of the developed countries, with a significant number of gun-related casualties. Many people in the United States die of gun-related violences than any other part in the world. In fact, according to a report which was published by the BBC, in 2023 alone, there were 565 gun-related injuries or deaths in the United States, compared to 647 in 2022, 690 in 2021, 610 in 2020, 417 in 2019, 336 2018, 348 2017, and 383 2016. There were 273 gun-related incidences in the United States in 2014. Now, many people, including those in the United States, are asking about the effective strategies for preventing or reducing gun-related violences in the country. The representatives in the country, elected individuals in the country at the state and federal levels, have suggested several measures that can be put in place to reduce gun violence. Among these measures are the proposal to include stricter measures of accessing these guns. The legislatures think that if stricter measures are put in place to control the access to guns and these high-powered weapons, then gun-related violences will be reduced. Some are proposing the revoking of licenses for those involved in gun-related violences. And to some extent, these proposals can be effective, but I believe that when we look at the case of the United States and the state of gun-related violences in the country, I don't think that issues of making it difficult for people to access guns, maybe by increasing the prices or by maybe introducing new recommendations for licensing, I don't think these measures can help reduce gun-related violences, because I want to assume that in the United States almost every household has a gun. I want to assume so. That means that there is at least one gun in every home in the United States. If this is the case, then it means that there are millions and millions of guns in the United States. And now saying that you want to introduce stricter measures for accessing these guns, you will be just like doing nothing. I have a suggestion, and I think that this suggestion can help in reducing the cases of gun-related violences in the United States. If you read all these incidences of gun-related violences and mass shootings in the United States, there is one thing which is common, and this is mental health. If you assess the offenders involved in mass shootings or these gun-related deaths, you will find that these offenders are either suffering from mental health issues or they have their own sources of stress. But the significant problem, the universal problem in the offenders engaged in gun-related violences in the United States is mental health. Just to be sure, And to just to solidify what I am trying to say, there was this recent case of the main mass shooting which killed 18 people, and several were left injured, and there were also 3 people who were in critical condition. And this offender, Robert Card, was age 40, who is now deceased. According to these law enforcement officers, this individual was suffering from a mental health problem. Now, just to be sure, just a minute, just to be sure, according to a report which was published regarding the offender, who was Robert Card, aged 40, in Maine, the officials said that they added he was known to have undergone mental health evaluations, though Commissioner Sauchak clarified that he had never been forcibly committed for treatment. Now, that is what I am trying to talk about. The recent case of Maine shooting, the offender, who was known as there is Maximum Son. This offender, according to these officials, was suffering from a mental health problem. Now, and several cases, if you look at several cases which have involved mass shootings in the United States and any other place across the globe, you will find that these individuals are suffering from mental health problems. Now, I do believe and I do suggest that if the problem of mass shootings is to be solved in the United States and any other place, any other country in the world currently faced with the problem of gun violence, then the officials at the local, state and federal levels should focus on mental health assessments and appropriate treatments for these individuals. If this is done, then I think that the officials will be addressing the source of the problem. The source of the problem in many of these cases is mental health, and mental health sometimes leads these individuals to engage in gun violence. I have given the practical case of Robert Card, who was recently involved in Maine shooting and the death of 18 individuals and the wounding of over 50 individuals, with 3 currently in critical condition. This individual was suffering from a mental health problem. Now, I believe that if the state and federal governments invest in mental health care, diagnosis and treatments for mostly veterans, because Robert Card was also, let me say, somehow dealing with veterans. These individuals undergo a lot of stress, and these individuals undergo a lot of trauma. To some extent, they need treatment and they need counseling, and to some extent, or unfortunately, they do not find these services that they require, leaving them to fight mental health disorders, problems alone. I believe that the state and federal governments in the United States and anywhere in the world currently faced with the problem of gun violence should focus on addressing mental health issues, because mental health issues mental health disorders are the primary cause of these gun-related violences. Mental health issues, mental health disorders cause many of these gun-related deaths. And if the state and federal governments invest in mental health care, then I believe that a practical solution and an effective solution for the current problems facing the United States and any other part of the world will be found. State governments, federal governments must invest in mental health care, and they should widen and increase accessibility to diagnosis, because you will find that most people do not have access to mental health treatment because of the existing measures, existing structures and frameworks for diagnosis and accessing healthcare treatment. I think that the government, the state and federal governments should ease access to healthcare, mental health care services. They should ease and remove the barriers which may prevent these people from being diagnosed, because the first step in mental health treatment is diagnosis. And if these people do not access these facilities to be diagnosed, then it is possible that they will not be treated. The first step should be opening up or removing barriers that may prevent these individuals from accessing diagnostic services. And after removing these barriers, then more facilities and more investments should be made in treatment services. As I have said, introducing more licensing requirements and maybe restricting access to guns and high powerful guns will not solve the crisis, the current crisis in the United States relating to gun violence, because as I have said that almost every home in the United States has a gun. And if almost every home in the United States has a gun, that means that gun presence in the country is uncontrollable. It cannot be controlled now. It is at its highest levels, and nothing can be done. When you talk about controlling access to, then that is not possible now. That was possible before the mass proliferation of guns in the country. Currently, the guns are there, and almost everybody has a gun. And now, controlling access will not work. We must find underlying factors that cause these violences. Guns are not the problem, but people are the problem. I think that the authorities should understand. Guns are not the problem. The people are the problem, because the people using these guns are mishandling these guns. And at some point, these people are forced to mishandle these guns. And these factors forcing them, one of the main factors forcing them is mental health. And if this main factor is addressed, then I believe that the problem of gun violence shall be solved forever in the United States and any other place in the world. If the United States government is able to fight and solve the mental health crisis in the country, then I believe that the problem of gun violence will be solved forever. Because gun violence is a matter of behavior. It is simply a matter of behavior. It depends on an individual's behavior. I can have a gun, but I decide to use it responsibly. And another can have a gun and decides to use it irresponsibly. Then it remains a matter of behavior. You have the gun, and how do you use it? How do you handle it? Do you use it for self-defense, or do you use it for provoking others? That is the same case in the United States. Guns are there, and those who possess these guns are misusing these guns. It is all about behavior. If we can control the behavior of these individuals holding guns, then that means that we can control the gun violence crisis in the country. Mental health issues are the primary cause of misbehavior with guns in the United States and any other place in the world, because according to the research which has been conducted by these authorities at local, state and federal levels, it is clear that mental health issues are the contributing factors to these gun violence cases. These individuals engaging in gun violence are at one time, or may have at one time been diagnosed with mental health disorders, or at the time of engaging in these violences they might have been undergoing treatment for mental health disorders. Then I think that if the problem of mental health is addressed in the United States, then the problem of gun violence shall be solved forever in the United States and any other place in the world.